Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for the 17th of July. All right, now as we come into Tuesday's trading, just having a look at the major pairs, Aussie and Kiwi, Euro for that matter as well, all still contained within recent ranges. Sterling just sort of bouncing around. The May's having, or UK PM, Theresa May is having a load of issues with trying to set out this Brexit deal. And once again, Sterling, a little pop to the top side, but then straight back into the range, and it looks like it's found a home around 132.30. So that's going to continue, and I'll come to that news in a second. Now, one of the odd ones out, well, we know that there's loads of various geopolitical and economic data situations happening in Canada. It is back trading sideways, drifting lower yesterday, back down to 131.30. Now, oil, this is the big one. Oil has basically dropped from last week, where it was sitting around sort of $75, 74.50. Okay, this is a solid move back down, and they're coming towards some sort of agreement with allowing some countries who import oil from Iran to get all their quotas done, so it doesn't impact the price so much. And what we're seeing is the oil price generally fall. Dollar yen, to me, it still looks like it's going up, but there's a chance here that if there is any sort of like left field event, then the downside is the way to go. And I'll show you where my focus is on the yen crosses. It is just trading sideways through the cloud. That's going to confuse a lot of the Japanese traders who would be using the cloud to instigate positions. But at this stage, but it's clear that chart, you can just see that the majors are pretty well behaved at the moment. And the market is getting very used to all the geopolitical stuff that's going around at the moment. If I just switch back over here to the news pages, you can see that where the general focus is for traders sort of globally. They're looking very closely. Obviously, I mean, this is the left. This is the silly stuff on the right hand side here. Trump and Putin sort of getting together. But what we do have is Powell's first testimony in Congress. Okay, that's going to be a huge event. We also have Bank of England Governor Carney speaking as well. So there's a couple of things here to keep an eye on. And if I just come back to the MyFX Trading Hub, I'll just give you a look at that as we come into Tuesday's trading. So we do have a couple of key events. Now, I wouldn't say the RBA event is necessarily key. It is obviously a central bank release. It will give us some extra insight into what the RBA are doing, but the last 12 months, they've been just copy-pasting their last minute. So I'm not holding my breath there for anything, but it is a potential major event. As I said, you've got this is where sterling really kicks off for the week. We have 8 a.m. in the UK. We have Governor Carney speaking. He's due to testify on the financial stability report before the Treasury Select Committee, right? So that's, if he says anything sort of crazy there, then you can be sure that sterling will move aggressively. And that runs into the employment or the unemployment, the claimant count change, where the major focus has really been on the average weekly earnings. Okay, that's going to be a really solid event for sterling. It's a pretty loose number. There's three variables, so don't get yourself all bent out of shape on that. Now, coming back to dollar CAD, we do have the manufacturing sales. Pretty sizable number that can really impact dollar CAD. And then you come into the North American session. This is where the major focus is going to be. US industrial production numbers. Another sizable number coming on the back of the retail sales figures yesterday, which were, ex-auto slightly weaker, but pretty much on track. And then we got the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell testifying there in Congress. So now, with those speeches, it's very hard to sort of work out. You generally got to wait, and especially Powell's, because there's a big Q&A after the Fed Chair's speech. Governor Carney, he'll come under the microscope as well. They'll be focusing on inflation, of course, and the current numbers. Brexit is almost overriding this at the moment. And if I just come back and have a look at the general news, okay, as I said, like Theresa May, her ability to manage this situation is starting to slip. And there's a lot of people suggesting any changes to the general plan on Brexit at this point does really reflect very poorly on her and is one step closer to a leadership spill. Okay, so that's what even these guys in these media releases are actually sort of talking about. It's actually, you got to read behind the lines, and if someone is questioning the whole Brexit plan, then that is closer to an overall Brexit spill. So now I did actually mention that's what I wanted to show you. CAD yen. Actually, out of all the majors, if I just come back to the major pairs at this stage, let me just give you a good look here of what I'm sort of seeing on the yen crosses. Let me just move these things out of the way. Now, you can see here, what we've got a situation is dollar yen is actually just sort of drifting sideways. Okay, so with that, you get a little bit of speculation. If this, little pop up to the top side, if it's short term, the unwinding of those yen safe haven positions as this China-US trade thing didn't eventuate, I think has led to this move. If there's any sort of escalation in any sort of tension, and that's Trump's main play, tension, we could see dollar yen easily drift lower 100 points. And then you've got these yen crosses. Now, we had Kiwi CPI numbers out, slightly weaker month to month, but it didn't really have an impact. You can see all these other yen crosses are in a nice short-term uptrend. Okay, now that could come into play. Now, what I'm talking about is, and my real focus here is CAD yen, if I can just get that stuff cleared. All right, so looking at the one that makes the most sense, okay, to me, and this is where things will come into play, is CAD yen. Now, there we go. All right, so just having a look at CAD yen. Now, there's a couple of things happening here. Now, there's obviously trade tension between the US and Canada. That NAFTA agreement hasn't really come into play. Now, just check out where oil is. Now, I have got oil on this left axis and the y-axis there. So just actually the way it should be. So going up, as you can see, it has dropped dramatically over the last few days or last week. Now, CAD yen is the natural oil trade, right? So you've got a couple of potential entry levels. You've got a support line here, which is sort of miles away, a good 50 points away. I'm looking at especially during the Asian session, looking to get into a trade here on the cloud. I'm looking for a break, retrace, so break down into the cloud, come back, retest the high, and then drop. Now, this is a little bit crafty. So what I have got set up is, that's not the best color. Let me just get that in there. A break, retrace trade on the top, and then a break trade through the bottom of the cloud, looking for it to really run to the downside. And all I'm looking for is, I'm not looking for worried about the trend or anything like that. I'm just looking for dollar yen to turn around, which it can do very quickly. Okay, so if I come back to that, just to give you a look at the setup here, it may be a little hard to see on the video there, but I do have a break retrace set up on the top here. Now, I just needed to break down 12 points through the level, hit the trigger level. My execution level is the second blue line, and then I've got another execution line here on the downside. Now, for our members who have Ichimoku Cloud Trader, you'll find the structure of the break retrace and the break trade in the Ichimoku Cloud videos. All right, so that's what I'm looking for. So really, the break line there is at 85.36, but what I'm looking for is it to break down, come back, retest that line, and keep going down. The potential on this trade is actually quite huge, because if you look at the, just coming back to CAD yen, if I just move that up a touch. Now, what we did see is when we saw oil, okay, it sort of fell from 64, rallied from 64 up towards 75. Okay, we had a period of time here where CAD yen was just trading sideways, and then all of a sudden it caught up and it rallied, 200 points initially, all right, and then over the course of the coming weeks, it rallied another 300. All right, so what I'm thinking is there's a lot cooked into this, and we could see a nice break trade to the downside. And will not be in one hit unless Trump does say something stupid or China comes out very aggressive on some new policy. But we could see a potential, 200 to 300 point move to the downside, and that's where I think the cash is. This is just basically a technical trade with hoping for a break lower. And I don't need to do anything else besides that. I set this trade in play, and we just let it run. So just coming back to the majors, you know, we do have some good setups. We do have now we've obviously got some major events in play. Carney and the UK claim account change and average earnings. Sterling and sterling crosses definitely in play. And when it comes towards you're looking at Jerome Powell, well, all the majors are going to be in play. He's controlling the US dollar, so you will see some activity here from Jerome Powell if he does say something. He is actually, I think, very organised and does not like to, run off the cuff, so to speak. So I think what we'll see is the same spiel and a little bit of dollar strength on the back of that. All right, so that's where we are, guys. As I said, just keep an eye on the 247 trade zone. That's where you're going to follow these events. Now, some of these have just been updated over the last 12 hours. Keep an eye on Carney's speech and Powell. He's talking on Wednesday as well, so that's a 2-day sort of event. We do have some high-impacting economic numbers here on sterling. Probably less so on CAD, but still in with the shot, and industrial production numbers in the US. So plenty to look at. And don't forget the current trading conditions, geopolitical issues clearing. The market, this is like all those major geopolitical events you have over the years. After a while, the market just gets desensitized by it, right? So at the moment, the markets are getting back into a normal sort of shape. As long as Trump doesn't come up with something stupid and or the Chinese don't retaliate, well, then that issue has been fully factored in and the market will start trading normally around these economic events, and especially around the central bankers, right? These guys are the most important people in the market. So make sure you are paying close attention to what they have to say and what the currencies are doing afterwards. If anything, I think Brexit is a major problem for us going forward through this period, because, you know, I think I truly expect the UK PM Theresa May to be probably out of her position over the coming weeks. She's losing a lot of faith there from her party, Conservative Party, whereas Powell has had to deal with Trump. He's gone a little bit quiet, so that's probably a clearer opportunity at this stage. All right, guys, that's it from me. It's a fair bit in that, but there's plenty to sort of look at. Just keep your trade size pretty clean. Wait for these levels to come towards these technical levels, I should say. And we have pretty good technical setups. Dollar yen is sort of up in the middle of nowhere, but the rest of the currencies have pretty good setups. So just wait for the opportunity to come. All right, guys, we'll catch you in the trade zone.